Mr. Dyer, you have 2 minutes.
The children exclaimed, "What about love?" I'm saying, what about equity? If you allow Thomasville to close, throw your strategic, facilities plan in the garbage. Because this precedent that you're setting with Thomasville, when you allow a purpose-built or contractor to make a decision on a tax-paid building, then you have no credibility. That is the greatest inequity of all, and you're supposed to have a department that's supposed to look at that. There's stability. Stability for children is very important. If a child leaves an elementary school and go to middle school, they feel some kind of way about the old school. So imagine children who are attending a school and they haven't completed their cycle, and now you're shutting the door on them, especially after their building has been condemned. And the children have been living in those conditions for a long period of time. So if you have any type of heart, you give those children some time to heal. And what about the solution of working with that low student teacher population? If Purpose Built is the group that's supposed to run it, why are they throwing in the towel if they have an effective system to bring those young people up to par? But I guess they don't. You work with the low student teacher ratio, then that's a recruitment tool when they plan to rebuild a place where you get more students to come in. That impacts Carver, that impacts Slater, that impacts all those schools. But you see, development is the name of the game. They use black boys and girls as scapegoats for failure to usher in development. Time and time again. Now, I know you're new here, but it's amazing how they bring superintendents here to ruin their careers. I'm against any type of school closure, especially coming out of a pandemic. The numbers that your group, that Sizemore group brought in here, totally inaccurate. All of the white schools are full capacity. All of the black schools, low capacity. But yet, that's where the development is happening. If you're looking at statistics and ARC, they're talking about growth. So I would say reevaluate, get involved, because your blood is on your hands if Thomasville closed, and you're going to hear from the community. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this concludes public comment.
And yes, they are hearing from the community. And good evening to you. Welcome once again to Exposed. I'm your host, Nate Dyer. Tonight, we're going to do a recap of the school board meeting. Pretty much centers around what's happening with Thomasville Elementary School. Now, you may say, why is this so significant? Why does it matter? The community of Thomasville has so many elements that are pretty, similar to most communities of color. While we have a great deal of success, a great deal of education, more stability in today's times, we still have a vulnerable population, that exists in our communities. And a lot of times, society throws them away like nobody cares about them. But you see, this scenario is different. It involves the lives of young black boys and girls. Regardless of what their economic background or circumstance is, they're beautiful and powerful. And I would say their families as well. We're all beautiful in our own way. They're trying to close Thomasville Elementary School. The first rationale in the beginning was because Forest Cove, which is an apartment complex located beside the school, is closing. And their idea is that a large population comes from that community. So they're saying that once it's closed or demolished, it will only leave 60 students behind. But there are other schools within Atlanta Public Schools that have a population less than that, and they allow them to grow and rebuild. There are some examples that you will find with APS where even though they announced a closure of the school, they gave that school 2 years so the children could transition. But this situation is totally different. Not only are they closing it based on some apartment complex, but it was a contractor who mentioned it first. He was the one that came out publicly saying that the school was closed, although the board had not taken a vote the superintendent had not presented it to the board to take a vote. Now, in the midst of this, they're supposedly demolishing an apartment complex called Forest Cove. But less than 5 miles or 5 miles down the road, they have created this, or in the process of constructing this place called the Milton. Please look it up. The Milton on Milton Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. And then Google Forest Cove. And then you'll be able to compare, like people want to say apples and oranges. They're all fruit. But you can look at the difference between what they're bringing in and what they're trying to close out. If they're building in a community, doesn't that speak to development? Doesn't that mean that the projections should be geared towards growth and the possibility of more students and children coming in? But see, the problem, and we need to understand that this is not just historic, but this is present day. The problem is young Black boys and girls reside or attend that school. Yeah, racism is an ugly thing, especially when you bring it into education. What I'm going to do is play some clips from this past Monday's meeting, and we'll have a little more conversation after that, okay? All right, here's the first clip. It's Mr. Arnold speaking.
Hello, I'm Bernard Arnold, PTA president at Slater Elementary. I have a few things to say. The Slater community was a special place. It was one where nearly 150 fathers came out on Dad's Read Day just to enjoy literacy activities with their children. It was one of the greatest participations of Grandparents' Day over all APS over 2019 and 2020. It was a great school, and it has been destroyed pretty much by Greg Gianelli and Nikita Warfield. We had the CFO resign, Human Resources resign. Everybody see the problem with Purpose Built. What I'm asking y'all is, we need to shut Purpose Built down, and I want to hold y'all responsible to come back in, take back over Slater Elementary, and bring the love, bring the equity, bring everything we need to make school beautiful again for these kids. I mean, because we just had a shooting incident last week. We asked for a security officer all year. We didn't get one, but we finally got one. Y'all sent one over. We appreciate that. But I mean, these are things that could have been addressed early on in the year when the parents was up and we was all fired up about it. Nobody did anything. Nobody said anything. They just let it flow. But I'm asking for y'all not to renew the contract with Purpose Built Schools. Thanks.
Yeah, very well spoken by Mr. Arnold. Heavily involved in the school, Slater Elementary, and he had spoken before saying that the culture was really good there. But now this upheaval of school closure, mergers between Slater and Thomasville. Thomasville, and you find that it's not ranked very high as relates to school rankings, maybe 1164 out of 1214. And I say no fault to the children. It's the level of instability, the level of dysfunction. He mentioned purpose-built communities or purpose-built schools who has the contract until 2030. A contract for, where are we, 2022? That's 8 more years, but they haven't moved the dial for the children. So your reward to the children is to close the school on them because you feel like only 60 children are left in the building. Well, you know, hell, you can't deal with the population that was there. 12-to-1 ratio, 422 to 1 counselor. And these people were supposed to come in doing this catastrophic turnaround plan to help the children grow. No growth whatsoever. So it's going downhill. And this is the group that said that the school is closing. Did the superintendent, Dr. Red Herring, push back on that? No. Did the school board push back on that, saying, hey, no, stay in your place. You're a contractor. Let the board and the superintendent handle that. No, because they're a bunch of, well, not all of them, I believe there was some type of vote that went down, and I'm still trying to get the details on it because there's supposed to be 3 meetings, community meetings around the closure. And somebody was saying that they voted that night and it was 7-2. So if there are 2 people who voted against it, much love to you. For those others, so the next clip I gave, there are 2 clips. I was able to speak twice, really 3 times, but something happened. They had a malfunction, and I guess they cut that out. But you will hear some commentary from me, which is up next.
This is about the situation concerning Thomasville, and it definitely plays a role in the budget. You have 86 schools. The Governor's Office of Achievement has said that 6 schools have an A, 13B, 21C, 22D, 24F. So it's 27.9%. Now, the Southwest area has the highest number of schools, graded D or F, and it pretty much throws into the Thomasville. 30 schools in Southwest Atlanta. You have 21 graded D or F, 9 graded A, and only 1 graded B. The true measure of equity. The AJC reports that the superintendent wants to create a new elementary school in Midtown, but yet you're closing the school or proposing to close the school in Thomasville. The families are concerned that the decision will not alleviate overcrowding. This is in the Midtown area. And that some students who live in the area may not be able to walk to their school. But you're allowing a contractor to bus children from one community to another. So where's the equity in that? You know, as we look at the budget, some things you need to put in place is let's reimagine Thomasville, not close it. Use it as an opportunity to work with those students. You have, it was reported at one time, the population was about 465. That was 2021. The ratio was 12 to 1, and then 422 to 1 for a counselor. Use this as the opportunity. Everybody's saying that there are 60 students. It's more, and if not, use the budget to make that a viable school for the students so they can maintain stability and continuity. Thank you.
Yeah, stability. That's just one word. Love, support, safety, family, trust, honesty, compassion, opportunity. That's bad news when it comes to when you're talking about Black boys and girls. They're not supposed to have those type of things. But that night, this past Monday, it was the tale of 2 cities, the Mason-Dixon of education. You had Thomasville Elementary, which they're trying to close, and you had Sparks or Springdale Elementary, where they're trying to expand or open the school. But yet Springdale is ranked 53rd in the state. Again, Thomasville, 1154, 11.6. You'll find out later on in the meeting, but low. But yet the parents from Springdale were concerned, Springdale Elementary were concerned about walkability to the school, the proximity. This contractor wants to bus our children. One thing you never hear discussed in Atlanta, I just have to tell it how it is, as it deals with race. No, never in a conversation about busing white children anywhere. Maybe to the park, maybe to maybe a restaurant or field trip, but never to another school. They really have holy hell on their hands. But that's the first option when it comes to Black boys and girls. They love to be on the bus all day, getting tired, exhausted from a long ride in Atlanta traffic. But then they're supposed to learn. So if the children are in the school environment in their neighborhoods and you're not providing the proper resources, what makes you think that they're going to do well being transitioned out of their neighborhood from their home school to another school, which really, they're almost tit for tat, but they're bringing the principal over who hasn't moved the dial with the school either. It's a formula set up for failure, but they don't care because, they're packaged in this beautiful brown stuff, which they call black. The next clip will give you some more details or just some more of my comments. Here you go.
Your move to close Thomasville is really just totally against the very principles that you're trying to set in motion as relates to equity in any manner. The AJC didn't do you any favors by saying that you're interested in creating a new school, creating one school and closing another school. And again, one area has stability. The Thomasville children have suffered years of neglect, and you're in a contract with a purpose-built communities. That's Greg Gianelli, who came out before the board even announced the closure and said that the school was closed in February. Here we are in hearing number 2. That does not add up. That's a very bad issue as it pertains to the image that you were portraying. Another thing, if you move forward with this, and I said, a lot of the board members have been pretty much paid for or contributions have been given to their campaigns, the issue of just being ethical comes into play. Again, you have an opportunity with Thomasville to reimagine the possibilities, to provide those students with what they've lost. You're in a contract with Purpose Built to 2030, and the children have performed worse than they did the previous year. But yet you have little to no oversight over that group. Maybe it's because it's connected to Warren Buffett and Tom Cousins, who created Purpose Built. And their goal is to develop all across the country. Of course, we had a conversation about Birmingham. We're not going to let that happen here. Be a true leader, lead for the children. Let that be your shining light of hope for the children in Atlanta. And with that model, with that success, it can be easily replicated across the district, and all the children will win. Thank you.
I find it very interesting that they find every model around the world except success for Black boys and girls. Every model, experimentation, concocted, just every model except success. And here's some information from the Governor's Office of Achievement. Pull it up so you can see it. So Thomasville Heights Elementary School, where there was something information about the address, and I think we may deal with that. Okay, well, they just had the information about Thomasville Elementary, the address. Oh, here it comes again. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Every model except success. The Governor's Office of Student Achievement says that grades K through 5, clusters elementary, a letter grade of F. Is that a true representation of our children? Hell no. And that's the way we need to respond, even worse than that. Because if children who learned how to walk as a baby developed the ability to talk and communicate at an early age, why are they not going to be able to read, write, and do those other things? Some things are just natural. A child in those years is very capable of learning. Life statistics shows you that. But if the system is not in the best interest of the child, then that's what you get. Again, what's the benefit of having educated young Black boys and girls who are capable? They only want to relegate us to basketball and sports. Well, if we excel in those things, which takes math, which takes certain ability that relates to, you have to be able to communicate English. We have to know some levels of science, physics, geometry, all those components involve sports, but you can't perform in the classroom. And, isn't it amazing that a lot of people that we grew up with who may have had bad grades or whatever are living a great quality of, have a great quality of life or doing very well, at least back in the day, because grades weren't representative of the person's ability. But in today's times, they make sure that it's not only uh, they're not providing the resources where the child can even function in life. So that's problematic. We need to understand that that is crisis level stuff in our communities. Get involved with your schools, okay? This next speaker is a very powerful speaker, as a Miss Waukesha Howe, and she's been involved in the fight for a very long time. But I think she sent it home with these comments that she made. Without further ado, here they are. Well, here.
On the Thomasville matter, I stand with the community. If they want to keep the school open, let's keep the school open. There's enough money in the budget. If we eliminate some of those very high-paying top heavy jobs, I think we can keep the school open. And also, why would we want to close a school when we have families that still living in the community and they have not had anywhere to go just yet? I think it's time that this board, that same energy that y'all gave today for the Midtown cluster, and I love them dearly. Shout out to the class of 2022. But that same energy today should have been for Thomasville, or it should have been for the other schools on the south side and the west side of Atlanta. We are sick and tired of electing you guys, and you guys don't stand up for black and brown children. Also, it is time for Jason to step down. You cannot serve two roles. You cannot run for a seat for this state and then try to serve our babies. It's time to go. E-Shape, it's time for us to start having that hard conversation, the one we had in the community meeting. It's time for you to share that with the rest of your team. And also, Katie, you is District 1 representative. It's time that you step up for the kids down in the Thomasville area, just like you showed up in that community. You need to show up for them right now and stand in the gap and support them right now, because they are still there. They are not gone yet, and we do not support it closing any more schools in our community. Thank you.
No, thank you, Waukesha. Very powerful and strong words, and she definitely has a love for the children, and of course, all children. But we got to be focused and understand that it's young black boys and girls who are under attack. I don't care what race you are. I'm sure it's got to be plain for you to see. I mean, can you just imagine children growing up, going to first, second grade, having a desire to fail? Any child. But in a system where the percentages are like 70% black boys and girls, and the history, the timeline just speaks to utter failure, it's not the children. It's the clowns in the seats. And the ones they rotate, it's the superintendent. There's a question that says, how does APS evaluate contractors like Purpose Built? Well, they don't. They have power over the board. They have given contributions to those board members to help them get elected. So if their vote was of 7-2, it pretty much falls in the line of who received those contributions. And of course, we will have that exposed in the future, because that's the name of the show, Exposed. Wanted to just give you all a quick show tonight. Keep it nice and tight so that you can just really savor the information and what's going on and the fight up ahead. Now, this is happening as a steering committee has been created. And, I would like to have some guests from the steering committee to come on, or, if they choose not to, we'll still keep this rolling. But the school closure can't be overlooked. The construction of Milton Apartments, or whatever the name of it is, can't be overlooked, because development is coming into the area. Why are they creating a steering committee if nothing's coming? But I say it again and again, trillions of dollars are coming to Thomasville. Yeah, probably more than that. So please do your research. Do your research. We probably have some mechanisms of how you can support and engage with us, but we cannot allow this to go down like this. It's more than a school closure. It is the destruction of a community. First, they're attacking the children. Well, let's say they're attacking the families because they allowed the city, the government, United States government, allowed those families to live in Forest Cove in that condition without any type of consequences. The reward is selling it or removing the people, but yet there are no penalties. Behind that, they want to close the school on the children. We've seen that before. So if they're doing that to the children and the families, doesn't that leave the senior community vulnerable? It's by design, but we're not going to let that happen. This is a new world of occurrences where we're going to be successful. We're going to put a plan in action. Well, we're working the plan right now, but we're going to make sure that these people are not displaced. The seniors are taken care of. Well, let me backtrack. Some things may be in motion as relates to maybe the Forest Cove situation, but as far as the residents that exist in the Thomasville Heights area, I'm going to try to stabilize them, make sure that they grow with development and not be run out by development. I'd like to give a thank you to Ms. Adrienne Coleman, who is the greatest producer in the world, as she has put this together with Square Mile Media. I think it's going to be definitely successful and on the rise. And I appreciate her working with me and bringing the pertinent information that's so needed in this fight. My name is Nathaniel Dyer. I hope to see you next Wednesday. Get my days mixed up. School board, but next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Tell one, tell all, and kids first. Love you.
Mr. Dyer, you have 2 minutes.
The children exclaimed, "What about love?" I'm saying, what about equity? If you allow Thomasville to close, throw your strategic, plant facilities plan in the garbage. Because this precedent that you're setting with Thomasville, when you allow a purpose-built contractor to make a decision on a tax-paid building, then you have no credibility. That is the greatest inequity of all, and you're supposed to have a department that's supposed to look at that. There's stability. Stability for children is very important. If a child leaves an elementary school and go to middle school, they feel some kind of way about the old school. So imagine children who are attending the school and they haven't completed their cycle, and now you're shutting the door on them, especially after their building has been condemned. And the children have been living those conditions for a long period of time. So if you have any type of heart, you give those children some time to heal. And what about the solution of working with that low student teacher population? Their purpose built is the group that's supposed to run it. Why are they throwing in the towel if they have an effective system to bring those young people up to par? But I guess they don't. You work with the low student teacher ratio, then that's a recruitment tool when they plan to rebuild a place where you get more students to come in. That impacts Carver, that impacts Slater, that impacts all those schools. But you see, development is the name of the game. They use black boys and girls as scapegoats for failure to usher in development. Time and time again. Now, you're new here, but it's amazing how they bring superintendents here to ruin their careers. I'm against any type of school closure, especially coming out of a pandemic. The numbers that your group, that Sizemore group brought in here, totally inaccurate. All of the white schools are full capacity. All of the black schools, low capacity. But yet, that's where the development is happening. If you're looking at statistics in ARC, they're talking about growth. So I would say reevaluate, get involved, because your blood is on your hands if Thomasville closed, and you're going to hear from the community. Thank you.